I feel like I should be a herbology professor with this shirt on. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with a wrap up. So it is September, which means the NEWTs are over, and I'm very sad to see them go. They were so much fun. But today I thought what we would do is we would go through all of the books that I read in the month of August for the NEWTs, and I was able to complete all 12 books that I was supposed to complete to become a metal charmer. Don't know how I did it, but I did it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through all of the books and I will tell you my thoughts on them. I was able to vlog the entire month, so I will leave all of those down below. It was a lot of fun. If you want to see my thoughts in real time, by all means go watch all of those vlogs, but this is just kind of a general wrap-up of what I read. So the first class I'm going to talk about today is arithmancy, and the A for that class was to read a book that ends in an even number. So I read Bad Girls Throughout History by Anne Shin. So this is just a collection of women who did awesome things. And Anne Shin did the artistry as well as just all of the research into who these women are, and they are all like just different parts of people, and it starts all the way like in the front with like Cleopatra, and there's even like Oprah Winfrey in the back. There's still a bookmark in this book. But I ended up giving this book 3 out of 5 stars. While I had a lot of fun reading this and it was really cool to learn about some women that I hadn't known before, there wasn't anything particularly memorable about this. It was just a collection of women that did awesome things. It was really cool and I liked it, but I have like very like middle ground feelings about this. So I am glad that I read this because I did learn some more things about some women that I didn't know existed, but at the same time the writing wasn't anything crazy, you know, elaborate, anything like that. My favorite part about this was probably her illustrations because they were so cool. For the E in this class was to read a standalone, so I read The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. I think this is the last book that I read this month. It was good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It gave me a lot of strong, like, Illuminae file vibes, but I don't know if that's just because it was set in space and it was a thriller. Like, that's probably the only thing that is similar, but it was really, really interesting because it is kind of in mixed media, not a whole lot, but they do throw in emails and fan fiction in this because our main character does write fan fiction, so they do have those layered in, but it's not like mixed media like Illuminae is, like, not at all. This just follows a girl who is literally the only person in the universe. She's on this ship and her parents have died and they're on the way to Earth 2 to basically just create another Earth, and she has been living on her own for years, and she finds out that this other ship is coming to her to help her out so she won't be alone, and she starts talking to the guy who's the commander of that ship, and turns out that he's not quite who he says he is. So it was really, really interesting. The last like 20 pages I was like on the edge of my seat. It was so good. I really, really loved this book. So 4 out of 5 stars for sure. And it is like super short, like I don't even think it's 300 pages, but so much happens in this book. And it was really cool just like seeing how Lauren James like layers in all the information, because we're also like learning about our main character's past while learning about this other guy as well. So it was just really, really cool to see this book, and I liked it a lot. So for the outstanding in this class, I had to read a book that was longer than 350 pages, so I picked up Diplomatic Immunity by Brody Ashton. This one I ended up giving 3 out of 5 stars. It was good and I enjoyed it, but it's like, it's a rom-com. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. It has all of the same structure as you would see like any other movie that's like your favorite rom-com movie. The favorite part about this entire book, I think, was was the main male lead, Raphael. He was so sweet, and he was kind of like that I'm a bad boy, but like not really, you know what I mean? Like he was but wasn't, and so he was really sweet and he really cared a whole lot, and I really liked him a lot. But yeah, there's not really much I can say about this, which is why I gave it 3.5 stars, because it was a very good like middle of the road romance. You knew it was gonna happen at the end of the book when you started the book. Like, it was a rom-com. There's not much more I can say about it. So the next class was Charms, and the A in that class was to read a book with a gorgeous cover. So I decided to read Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the illustrated edition. Now, if you watch my vlogs, you know how obsessed I am with the illustrated editions. Like, there's a lot of B-roll in those vlogs of just the pages in these books because they're so pretty. This is the one that I picked for that challenge because I am still trying to do my Harry Potter readathon this year that I haven't started until now. So with 4 months left, I think I can do it, but we shall see. but this was a way for me to get that one in here so I could start it. What I did is I put the Jim Dale audiobooks. I'd never actually listened to these books on audiobook before, so I listened to that while I read along physically, and that way I could like look at all the amazing, you know, art in here by Jim Kay, and also just listen to the awesomeness that was Jim Dale. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. This was a lot funnier. I forgot how funny J.K. Rowling's writing is. One thing that I do remember a lot about the Harry Potter books was that the first ones are very like middle grade, and then as the audience grows up, so does her writing. So the last one is very different in a writing style than the first one. So I am intrigued to, like, as I go along with these books, kind of remind myself, you know, how it's changing, when it changes, things like that. But yeah, I love this one. I don't think I'm ever gonna give Harry Potter anything less than 5 stars. Like, it just hurts my heart to even think about it. So I love this one. It was so much fun to read, and it was just great. I'm so happy I did it this way. Oh, that one was heavy. For the Ian charms, you had to read a graphic novel or a manga, so I picked up Bloom. This is one that I've had on my shelves for just like a couple of months. My best friend gave it to me because I was kind of obsessed when I listened to the author talk about this book. It was so much better than I could have possibly imagined. Like, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and it was so great. This one is just absolutely amazing. It's about Hector and Aerie, and they are just these 2 boys who fall in love one summer, and it is so cute. And it's all about Aerie's family's bakery and how it's kind of like struggling for money, so they hire Hector to help out, and they just have like the cutest moments together, and the art style in this is amazing. I mean, more than like multiple times they would have like these montage pages where they're just like baking together and being cute, and I just loved it. This just gives me so many feelings. It's all kind of like in these blue tones, and I've never really figured out why that is, because like it's not a sad story. It's got its moments like all stories do, but it's not like only about a sad things, you know? So I'm not quite sure why they chose that tone to use in this book, but it was still beautiful and I loved it, and this makes me really, really happy, and I'm so glad that I finally read it. So to complete my O for charms, I had to read a paperback, and if you saw my TBR, I was thinking about reading The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Decided to change that. So I ended up reading Milk and Honey by Ruby Kaur. This was her first poetry book. I read her second book, The Sun and Her Flowers, I think is what it was called, sometime last year. I think it was around December. It was really great. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It's definitely same kind of stuff as the other one, where it like hits really hard. Definitely trigger warnings in this book, at least in the first section, for rape. That's a big theme in the first one, and so what she does is, and I noticed this in her second one as well, she has like sections. So she has 4 sections in this book, and they are the hurting, the loving, the breaking, and the healing. And her second book has very similar, you know, kind of structure. This is so good. It's really hard for me to understand anyone going into her books and not relating to at least one thing, because they just are so hard-hitting. They're great. So definitely I think this is one that you can read over a couple days, because if you want to just sit down and read the whole thing, it's really hard. And while some of the harder topics are usually at the beginning and more of the like healing and the lighter topics are near the end, it's still hard-hitting the entire way through. I love her writing. I think it's really amazing. And yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. Loved this book. So the next class that I finished was Transfiguration, and the A in that class was to read a book with LGBTQIA+ representation in it. So I read Birthday by Meredith Russo. This is her newest book. I read If I Was Your Girl last year and have raved about it ever since. So I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. So this follows 2 friends, Morgan and Eric, as they grow up from ages 13 to 18, and the one thing that I loved most about this was the structure of this book, is that it only takes place on their birthdays. So you see the 2 of them progress from like preteens up to teenagers, and it's really amazing just the structure and seeing, you know, their friendship that blossoms into a romance as one of them is kind of questioning their identity and whether or not they feel right in their born body. One of the biggest things that I noticed that was a difference between her 2 books, both have to deal with trans representation and having a character that is trans, but the first one is more about the main character's kind of like the world adapting to the main character after the transition, and this one is dealing with the character kind of coming to terms with the fact that, yeah, they don't feel right in a male's body, they want to be a female, and what that means, and kind of just like them discovering this for themselves and how long it takes for them to discover this. So it's more of like an internal struggle that you're watching. This one is definitely like super hard-hitting, but I loved it so much. It was so great. So 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm really glad that I read this, and I think, you know, like Meredith Ruthstone is going to become an author for me. I know that whatever she writes is going to hit hard, but is going to be something that is like people need to read, because not only is it about, you know, trans representation, which is not out there in the world as much as it should be. Meredith Ruthstone herself is transgender, so she comes from like a real place, and you know that these topics are going to be treated the best way that they can because it comes from someone who understands. For E in this class, I was supposed to read a book that was not the first in a series, so I ended up picking up Two Dark Reigns by Kendare Blake. This is the third in the Three Dark Crowns series. This was amazing. I believe I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars because I just freaking devoured this book. Out of the 3 that I've read in this series, this is definitely my favorite, and I'm not quite sure why I devoured it as much as I did. I remember the first one taking me a while to get into, which I had been told that was going to be the case, and then the second one was going to be good, and the second one was good. It's just the third one was just so much better, and I think there was like this level and like a layer of like mythology kind of in it where you're learning about the history of this island and the history of the queens, and it just was fabulous. I freaking loved it so much. I think she also, because there was a big gap in time for me reading the second one and the third one, that there was a lot of stuff that happened in the second one that I had totally forgotten about, and she does a really good job of reminding you what those are without telling you that she's reminding you what those are. Like, it's layered in so well that you're like, oh right, that happened, and it was a good like memory like kick for you, but she's not being like, last time on Three Dark Crowns, these things happened. It was like really well written in that way. Like, I don't want to say too much about this because it is the third in the series and I don't want to spoil anything, but I couldn't put it down when I was reading it. I had that much fun. So the very last challenge in this class was O, and that was to read a book over 500 pages. I picked up The King's Curse by Philippa Gregory. I ended up absolutely adoring this book. This one, as of right now, is my favorite Philippa Gregory book at this point. I loved this book so much. I have like so many like thoughts on this because it's such a complex story. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm actually going to do like a book review of this because I just have so many thoughts on it and I haven't done a book review in so long, and there's just a lot of stuff about this that I want to talk about. It was complex. The main character was absolutely amazing to read about. The story just kind of like kept going. It had all of the things about that Philippa Gregory's writing that I absolutely love, and it followed a time period that was my favorite, which was the Tudor court and King Henry and his wives, and so it's just kind of like an outsider's perspective on King Henry and the wives, as far as like she's part of court but she's not the wives and she's not King Henry. Like, she's kind of seeing it from the outside. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. I just adored it. So if you like Tudor England, if you like really complex books about Tudor England, I have one for you. So the next class is Defense Against the Dark Arts, and I only had to read the first book in that challenge, and that was to read a book with black under the dust jacket. So I picked up Circe by Madeline Miller. So I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. It takes the story of Circe, and like I only know the very like slim part of it when Odysseus comes to the island and she turns all of his men into pigs. I knew that part of Circe's history, and like that is it, because you learn about that in the Odyssey. But this gives like her whole backstory. This gives, you know, when Odysseus shows up, and then this also gives like what happens when Odysseus leaves and like what happens to her after that. One of my favorite things about this book is Madeline Miller's writing style. It's flowery without being too much, but it's so pretty and amazing, and it paints the picture so well that you like see what she's talking about. It was just so well written, and I loved getting to know Circe on like a different level, even if it was just Madeline Miller's taking of Circe. I just loved it so much, and It was really good, and I'll read anything by Madeline Miller now because I love her writing so much. My last class for this NEWTs 2019 was Ancient Runes, and I only had to read the first 2 challenges of that, and the first one was to read a book that was recommended by a friend, whether that's like in person or a booktube friend. So I ended up picking up Peter and the Starcatchers by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson because my husband freaking loves these books. And he's been trying to get me to read this forever. Like, this book that I have in my hands, he gave me for my birthday like 3 years ago, and by God it was good. So I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. I freaking loved this book. It was so good. It gives like a whole different meaning to like the story of Peter Pan, which is so intriguing, and I want to know more because this is like the first in a series of 4, I think. It definitely was a really fun retelling of Peter Pan that I loved. And I understand why Chris likes it so much now. So, yeah, he was right. I get it. But it was really, really good. And I did listen to the audiobook, like I said. And it was actually Jim Dale who did the audiobook. So it was really interesting to listen to him do 2 different books in like 1 month. And like compare like how good of an audiobook narrator he actually is. This one just was like really funny and had its moments. But I also have like a lot of questions about why this is considered a middle grade book, because there is definitely some adult themes in this. There's definitely like a mention to like sex within like the first 30 pages of this, and like they don't say it's sex, but they kind of like apply like what's happening, and if you know what they mean. And so like a kid might not understand what's happening, but also like I think it's it's enough that like a middle schooler could probably understand what that means. So I have a lot of questions about that and why that's in a middle grade book, or why this book is even considered middle grade. Anyway, I'm hooked now and I need the second one like now. And the very last book that I'm going to talk about today was my E for Ancient Runes, and that was to read a book in past tense. So I ended up reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the illustrated edition. I did the same thing with this one that I did with the first one, which was listening to the audiobook as well as read along, and I was just having so much fun with the first one that I needed to find a way to put the second one in here. I was going to originally use the book Romanoff for this challenge, but when I opened this book I realized it was in not third person, it was in past tense, and I was like, oh my god, I can use that. I will say I think the first one was more fun for me than this one, because this one has a little more less fun topics, I guess is what you can say, with the Chamber of Secrets. Yes, in the first one it's kind of like a mystery and they're trying to figure out what Fluffy is guarding. They don't really realize how bad that is until near the end, whereas this one they know that the Chamber of Secrets is bad and like it's not good, and things are gonna happen if they don't figure it out. So there's definitely like a more darker tone to this one. I mean, it's still a pretty light book, but out of the 2 it's more darker tone. I loved this one. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I will never give Harry Potter anything less than 5 stars because it's freaking amazing. I'm really glad that I could fit the second one in this challenge as well. Yay. So that is it, guys. That is all of the 12 books that I read this month. So we got to all the books that I needed to get to, and y'all, I'm a metal charmer. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys had a great reading month. If you participated in the NEWTs, let me know if you completed all your challenges and who, what career you're going for. If you weren't part of the NEWTs, that's perfectly fine. I hope you had a great August, and let me know what your favorite book is that you read. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to be part of this awesome family we've got going on over here. And I'll see you guys in my next video.